Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of BookGoodies podcast, the author series. I'm your host, Deborah Carney, and I have with me today Jonathan Segal. I did it wrong. Jonathan Segal.
If it was Segal, you said it right, but it's Segal.
Jonathan Segal. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to meet you, and
hi, Deborah.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, why don't you introduce yourself, since I botched it, and tell people a little bit about yourself.
All right. Okay, I am Jonathan Segal and have been as long as I can remember. I've been a musician all my life, a pianist, singer, entertainer, music educator, composer. I've worked in jazz, I've worked in rock and roll, I've been in theater, film, worked as a composer in television, done a lot of different kinds of music, usually stemming out from the piano in some form sooner or later. And I wrote a novel, which you're going to hear about, called The Disharmonic Misadventures of David Stein, which is a fictional book, because why do they call it a novel? Hey, but it is about a piano player. That's my point. And is he me or is he fictional? Who knows? But I'm morphing into a writer. I haven't stopped being a musician, but I'm finding the writing process not unlike composing or inventing a jazz piano solo. So here I am.
And that's a really great analogy, because a lot of people are comparing the current state of the book publishing business to what music went through a few years ago. But what I like about a lot of the authors I'm speaking to, like yourself, is that they do something else creative as well. And you're still creating something out of nothing, basically, and you are doing it your own way, and you find out that, like you just said, it's not that different from composing anything else. It's just you're delivering it in a different format.
I really agree with you. It's absolutely true. I like being creative. Whether I'm making up a song on the spot, or I'm walking down the street whistling, or making a pun or a joke, or getting up and emceeing at a party, or playing jazz at the piano, or writing something down like a book or a poem. Or I've always been a songwriter, so I've always written song lyrics, and I've always been kind of a story. My songs have often been story songs with characters and plot, so it really wasn't such a far cry to writing a novel. I did tackle a couple of short stories. I had written scripts for a couple of musicals, one of which I hope one day to get to Broadway. So I had done some writing, but I had not written a book.
Well, and you just brought up something about all the different genres. You've tried, across a lot of things. The songwriter and the poetry and the short story all actually come together to be very similar to each other, in that, you can tell a story with a song, you can tell a story with a poem, and you should, probably. And, they can also be a short story, but the poem and the song are probably more about dialogue, and the short story, you have to fill in more of the backstory. So that, those things do all tie together. And then when you talk about screenplay, writing a play for Broadway, a musical, then again, you're in dialogue, and you have to give descriptions of where the people are, but not as much as you would if you were in a novel. So
right.
To take that script and turn it into a novel takes you to a whole nother level of writing skill.
Yeah, and it's funny because I agree with you. The musical I had written came out of wanting to create a vacation for my family, and so I created a whole universe, and it's called Space Vacation. So I created a whole universe. I thought, this is great. This doesn't cost a cent for me to write, but of course, if they ever put it on stage, it'll cost them money. And then I thought, well, if I start writing something that I didn't know I was going to write a novel, but as the book unfolded, I thought, this is great. This doesn't cost anybody money to produce. If they make a movie of it, that's wonderful. But meanwhile, I could create this universe, this world within my jazz novel, as they call it, Disharmonic Adventures. And there's no budget. There's nobody says you can't create, I'm going to have a floating city in my novel. You can't do that. It's going to cost too much to do on stage. It's going to cost too much a movie. In the book, it doesn't cost anything. It just costs your brain power and your energy and your creativity. So that was great. That was a wonderful series. By the way, if I may say, I don't know if I knew it was going to be a novel. What happens to the guy in this book is a mystery, and I did not know how it would end. I did not know how the mystery would be solved. unveiled itself to me as it does to the reader, which I think is part of the fun and the excitement.
And you are not the first author to say that. And that was going to be one of the things I was going to ask. But I kind of figured, because you are a musician and that you don't normally, when you start writing a song, correct me if I'm wrong, but normally when you start writing a song, you don't always know how it's going to end.
That's right.
You know, you let it come to you.
You're right. I probably don't know how it's going to end. I probably get a title in my head, or a snatch of melody, or a chord progression, or some kind of groove, or some kind of idea, and then it starts to take form. And then somewhere along the way, I may know where it's going to go, to have a structure. But with the novel, it really took, midway in the book where I thought, oh my gosh, I think I know what's happening here. It seems to have that effect on the reader, which is great. Well, they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen. But
right.
It's kind of, may I tell you what it's about? Because that's
sure.
Well, David Stein, he's a pianist like me. He's a jazz pianist, and he plays parties and fancy events in museums and bars or dinner parties on Park Avenue. And he's kind of jaded, and he's not totally a hack. He's talented, but he hates his work. He hates his wealthy clients. He feels he's treated badly. Nobody regards him as an artist. And he's really glum and morose, and he's kind of a schlemiel. And what happens to him is, one day he's home in his living room, and he's just walking around, and he's dial spinning on the radio. All of a sudden, he hears 3 or 4 seconds of unworldly piano music. He falls to the ground sobbing, and it's like God is grabbing him through the soul, through the guts. And he gets up slowly to turn up the volume, and he hits the tuner by mistake, and he doesn't know what station he was on, and he can't find it. And so these few seconds of music has shocked him and turned his world upside down, but he doesn't know who it was. And he becomes obsessed with a quest. It's really a hero quest kind of novel to find out who was playing the piano. And meanwhile, the experience of hearing the music starts to change him. He develops extrasensory perception and visions. He gets involved with an anti-music death cult and a murder, and every one of his gigs, all sorts of crazy stuff happened to him anyway. I'd say it's like Mr. Magoo down the rabbit's hole. He's sort of a loser, but now he's become obsessed with music. He starts to care what he's doing. He's really becoming transformed, all the while trying to find out, what did he hear?
That sounds like an awesome storyline. I'm fascinated. I don't have time to do a lot of reading, but interviewing authors like yourself, it's like, okay, I got to read that book.
I'll sing you the whole book.
That's I love the way you were able to describe your character, because even a lot of, especially a lot of new novelists, they don't know how to explain it in just a short time. They're like, well, I did this and I did that and I did the other thing and I had to put him here and I'm guilty of the same thing. You don't know how to do it in that short bite that you just did.
Well, that's interesting. I think that's the longest I've ever done it, and that's because you were gracious enough to give me time. I know how to pitch it in 2 sentences, but, I thought I'd just unwind and tell you, how it flows.
Well, and that's important, because a lot of our listeners are, like I said, they're new authors, and they're afraid of, what if I take my character to this place and I don't know what they're going to do when they get there? Well, just write it and just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, well, there you go. And it's very different from what I thought about writing. I mean, I think, for instance, a movie. I've only dabbled in screenplays. I'm not a screenplay writer, or maybe some point I would try it with this. But it seems like certainly somebody who adapts something else for a screenplay, a story that already exists, they've got to structure that down to the eyelash.
Right.
I guess there's less improvisation in the typical screenwriter. I'm guessing. I don't know. Whereas I was free to just let it roll.
Well, and it's like you said, for a screen, if you're writing something for TV or for movies or for a stage play, it has to be believable and it has to be doable.
Yeah.
So, you can, J.K. Rowling was able to make Harry Potter transfer to the screen because there was enough that was different to make it exciting, but there was enough that was achievable with the technology to make it a real world.
You're right. She created an incredibly visual, descriptive, wonderful, magical world, and they did a great job of creating it on film. You're right.
Right.
Both media, it worked.
Yeah. And, when you talk about, you wrote a play, but you can't have it be in outer space because if you made this galaxy that, you had to go up to, it would be too hard to recreate it on stage.
But
that's
I will
your
find
limitation.
except Broadway producers that they can
Yeah.
until I convince them.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, don't let your don't let your perceived limitations stop you. And you might be the next Stephen King or the next J.K. Rowling.
There you go. By the way, one of the ways I pitched this novel is a little bit of Stephen King meets Woody Allen.
I was going to say Woody Allen.
He's kind of a Woody Allen-like.
In one part of your description, I was going to say Woody Allen.
He's kind of like Woody Allen looking for God in music.
There you go.
There's a lot about spirituality and God mixed in with it. I mean, the book is about jazz.
Right.
It's about a loser trying to, I also say it's like a caterpillar trying to cocoon and become a butterfly in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And maybe he does, but I won't tell you.
I got to read it. I got to read it, right?
Give it a shot.
And that's another way that you're a good storyteller because you can tell people what the story's about without giving away the ending.
Right.
And
that's true.
You have the story has enough layers to it that you can get people interested in it in just a few sentences, like you did, and you're used to having to do even less. For our listeners out there, don't think that everything has to be cut and dry. And don't think everything has to be the way other people think it needs to be. I said it before, and, you're saying it, and just let it go. Let it take over and see what it's going to be. And then if you don't like it, you can throw it away, But if you don't get it out of you to begin with, you're not going to know where it can go.
Yeah, a soul unexpressed. That's one of the themes of the book, really, and really that's what's in his piano playing. He's if you'll pardon the expression, kind of emotionally, musically constipated. He's not really in touch with the deepness. He loves music, but he can't always let it flow the way he wants to because he's so neurotic.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
and I have to say that I could write this book because I knew this guy. I mean, really, what I did is I lived that life. I played over 1,000 fancy parties in my tuxedo for the rich and the famous and the not so rich and famous, as I put it. And I've loved some gigs. I've walked out of some gigs and said, wow, they should have paid me. I mean, rather, I should have paid the host because that's so much fun. And there's others where you come out feeling really horrible, where you feel nobody cares what you're doing. They're just drinking their wine and no one's listening, whatever. And I did that for many, many years. And I wrote this book when I was feeling the dark side of it. And it's kind of like if you take a if you think of your personality as a sphere, and you take a magnifying glass and go over it, when you hit the id, I magnified the id, I focused on the id, I went crazy with it, I really let it run wild, and that's what happens with this character in the book. That's the part of me that I magnified and extrapolated and embellished.
Well, and that's what another thing that is a recurring theme is that you did something that's going to get people emotionally involved. And at the end of the book, they're going to feel better or they're going to feel different. Whether it's better or worse, they're going to feel different than they did when they started the book.
I love what you're saying. I don't mean to sound like I'm throwing strokes here, but I really agree with you. It is meant and seems to be working as a transformative novel. That's it. The reader's transformed along with the character, and that's part of the pleasure. And by the way, that's what musicians love. No musician loves anything more than to, if I sit at the piano and I'm playing jazz and people walk by the piano and start snapping their fingers or singing, somebody was in a crummy mood, they walk out and they've fallen in love again, or whatever it is, I've created a mood that transformed them. Yeah. I used to work in television as a composer. I wrote a lot of music for television a long time ago, for soap operas and sports shows and game shows and news, all that stuff. And, when you write music, say, for a background in a soap opera, maybe there's a love scene. Well, you could write lovey-dovey romantic music and then you think something's going to happen with them, but you might also write see the same romantic scene in the bedroom, but you write little nervous pizzicato violins or something, and now the audience thinks, is she going to kill him? You're the puppet master when you do that. So in a different way, when I'm live at the piano, you're also underlying the atmosphere of the people in that room. And on a good day, you do transform them. You do give them an experience that raises them up in some way.
I love that you've got the siren and not me, because usually I got the fire truck or the police siren in the background on my side. So
no doubt the fire engine gives away the signal that I'm out in the middle of the desert nowhere.
Yes, yes.
Where there's a fire truck.
Right in the middle of the desert known as New York City.
That's the one.
Well, now, so if someone, tell me how did you go about publishing your book? Did you self-publish? Are you traditionally published? How are you published?
I did self-publish, but I am using that self-publishing both to hopefully sell copies of the book and create a buzz, and also to alert physical publishers and literary agents and the literary world at large.
Okay.
So, if we could extrapolate, the best case of that is Amanda, forget her name, young British lady. Amanda Hocking, yeah. She sold millions of books online, but she still ended up going with a physical publisher because she said, I know a lot of my fans still shop at Walmart, don't have Kindles. I want them to be able to get my book. So best of both worlds, the analog world and the digital world. But what happened with me was I had the manuscript sitting around. I wasn't sure how to get it where I wanted. And then somebody told me about self-publishing. And the company I used, and by the way, I'm very happy with them, it's called CreateSpace. Mm-hmm. I think they're sort of a subsidiary, or they're connected to Amazon.
Yep.
I was gonna do the ebook first. That was my goal, and become Mr. Amanda Hocking. That was my goal. Mm-hmm. And I started to do it. I did all the format changing, typed it up, blah, 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 blah. I literally was at the point where I had to do the last click to upload it. When I viewed it through an ebook viewer, some of the formatting looked a little strange, and I thought, I could probably figure out how to solve this on my own, but it might take a long, long time. I know I'm going to do a paperback sooner or later, so why don't I go up CreateSpace? I'll do the paperback first. They will help me with the Kindle and Nook version. And they did. So I did the paperback first, and immediately I said to them, help me put up the Kindle version, which they did. So I put it out in all formats. I was very, very happy with them. In a world where customer service seems to be, gone down the drain, they spent a lot of time on the phone with me. They have one of those buttons that says, call me. When they call you right up, here's my question. I'm on the phone with them half an hour because they'll talk about it. Yep. I gave them ideas. I said, here's my, I told them for my cover, I wanted a guy in a tuxedo sliding down a roller coaster of piano keys. And they outdid me. They did their version of that. And the funny thing is they sent me the cover as a digital file, and I looked at it. It was just the title page. I thought it was the cover, but it was just the inside the title page. And I thought, okay, this is okay, but I'm not really that excited. And then they said, no, you're looking at the wrong thing. And it was great. It was so great that I think I haven't really exploited it enough. I haven't been putting it in physical stores where somebody could physically pick it up and see it, because CreateSpace did a great, great job. Put the photo on the back and all the tech blurb I want. I also put some QR code, so if somebody walks into a bookstore, they could scan the QR code. It'll take them to my website. On my website for Disharmonic Adventures, which is www.disharmonicmisadventures.com, I put a lot of multimedia. I put a YouTube video of me at the piano singing and playing about the book. I'm telling you that playing, so that's on YouTube. I put a chapter read by me with a background jazz piano score by me under it. I put the text of the first one. I put reviews as they came in. And anytime somebody read the book that I knew about, I said, hey, would you be willing to write a review for Amazon? Or if I gave you the book or I sold you the book, can I, put your comments on my webpage? So I kept adding stuff. So I've made it a real good website. And, I'm trying to reach for the moon. I'm only a few inches off the ground, but I'm moving up.
Well, and that's a really good story about how you worked with CreateSpace. I use CreateSpace as well, and they are owned by Amazon, and that gives you a lot of advantages, because if you put your Kindle book up first and then you do your CreateSpace book later, you can actually just send an email to the CreateSpace support or call them up and say, these two books are the same book. Can you please put them both on the same page? So that when people land on your ebook page, they also have the ability to purchase your print book. Or if they go on, or vice versa. So if they are on your print book page, but they don't know if they want to spend that much money on a book, you give them the less expensive ebook, and then they read it, and then they tell their friends about it, and then everybody goes out and buys the print book. So either way, you win. And the other thing you said about, the roller coaster ride and, creating your book. CreateSpace, you can either do everything yourself, or you can have them use their services to help you get to where you want to go. And in your case, they did your cover for you, they did your formatting for you. What better to have them do your formatting as, the company that, is going to make money or lose money by, whether it turns out right. And the same thing with the Kindle. Yes, I'm really good at formatting Kindle books, but other people aren't. And what I noticed that CreateSpace just did within the last month or so is now when you get to the end of the CreateSpace process, they say, hey, put your book on Kindle. Here's your book cover. Here's your manuscript. Just download these two files and click the next button. Well, I haven't had to do that because I went the opposite route where I did Kindle first. Right. And I think that's brilliant because then, they're going to link you together. They're going to know that, that's your book. And it's become part of the CreateSpace workflow. And I think that is going to help immensely in the Kindle marketplace because there's a lot of folks that think there's a lot of junk, which, truthfully, there is a lot of junk on the Kindle. But there's also a lot of junk that's self-published. And the reason I'm doing the podcast series with authors is let's find the good stuff. Let's get publicity for your books that are the good books that people should be reading and that we all want to enjoy. And let's support each other to be better writers.
I like it.
I like that you do videos with your own music behind them. I'm like, well, yeah,
that was
jealous.
A really funny one. I mean, if you go on, if anybody types on Google Disharmonic Misadventures, a whole bunch of stuff will come up. But one of the things I also did one where I took For Elise by Beethoven, and I did a jazz version of it as a YouTube video. Are we still in touch?
Yep.
Oh, I just had backup. Anyway, so I did For Elise as a as a jazz version. Also connected it, and I mentioned the book in it. I'm trying all sorts of things. As a musician, I've marketed myself since I was in college in my first band. So I'm used to doing that. So I saw somebody complained on a forum about CreateSpace. Hey, they didn't market my book at all. Well, hey, that was
not their job.
That was their job. My job is to market the book. So I'm talking to you. Thank you very much. So I try to do interviews. I put up a good website. I do emailings. I pitch it on Facebook. I can recommend a couple of other cool things I've done that have led to other things, other ways of marketing that people might be interested in, if I may.
Yes, please.
Did a press release. That's probably what I sent you. I think the company I used was called 1888 Press Release or something like that. And they did a great job. And that press release has my videos embedded. It's got the cover embedded. It's got my website. It's got a blurb. And they did a great job. So I use that every time I send it out to a person like yourself or a potential reader or a potential agent or a publisher. And by the way, I joined Writers Market online. You can do that. It's cheap. And then you can access lists of agents, lists of publishers, and contact them. I'm reading a book called The Laptop Millionaire, and it's loaded with great ideas. One website they suggested using was Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, where people will do whatever you want for $5, pardon the expression. So also advertising things. A guy in England ran around to 500 mailboxes to put up my flyer for $5.
Yeah.
So I did a little video, an animated video of the website address that I posted for $5 on Fiverr.com. Yeah. Then there's sites like ClickBank and Get a Response that are all about email lists, building an email list. No, it's all about internet marketing and publicity. I'm sort of a novice within it, but I'm a fast learning novice, and I'm enjoying the process, and I try new things every day, to promote the book.
Well, and there you go. You just hit upon two really interesting topics. And before I get to that, I have friends that are addicted to Fiverr, and we've threatened to take their accounts away from them because they get too much done at Fiverr.
Yes, you could spend your whole day spending $5 bills on silly fun stuff.
Yes, and things
you
like
can do that on Facebook or in front of CNN or anywhere else.
I know. A couple of our friends have gotten this, and no offense to anyone who is a fat, ugly woman, but she is a fat, ugly woman, and she is angry, and she screams, don't go to this website. Don't. I will kill you if you go to that website. And, of course, you go to the website because, she screamed at you and told you not to.
That's funny.
But Fiverr will do, like you said, Fiverr will let you do anything. But the two important points you made were that you're creative and you think outside the box. And the other one is that you're not afraid to learn what you don't know. And you're not afraid to try, to go out there and try things. I mean, my day job is internet marketing. I'm very familiar with internet marketing and affiliate marketing and all that kind of stuff. But it's been very enlightening listening to all the different authors and that, get yourself offline. Go do a reading at your local bookstore. Or for you can go to the local wherever club and sit down and play some music and
then read the book.
Music going along with your book. And
there you go.
That would be something that would be very unique just to you, but that would be supporting a local business and, making you feel good and hopefully selling you some books. And you never know who's in the room that may be that person.
You got to keep throwing stuff against the wall, but figure which wall you want to throw it at.
Yep. And make sure that it's unique to you. I mean, don't follow the crowd and be your own person and follow your strengths. Use your strengths, get out of your comfort zone, but use your strengths. And your strengths is your music. And, the day is coming where you're going to be able to put music in your Kindle book. And, I mean, now you can link to it and have people listen on their Kindle, as long as they're connected to the internet or they can download the song. They can listen to the music behind your book, but the day is coming where it'll be embedded. And you're going to be a step up from the rest of us because I
like that.
You already know how to do your music. So,
and by the way, if I may say, to younger listeners or older listeners, we're talking about the MacBook Pro. The computer and the internet is levels the playing field in an awful lot of ways. I mean, if this had been 30 years ago and I was trying to send out a novel, I'd be trying to get hold of a list of people who are not going to talk to me. I now have access to, through the internet. If you're smart, you can contact anybody.
Yep.
And if you have a good product and you format that product in a way that's pleasing to the eye, ear, brain, heart, whatever, you can get your product to somebody. It's very different from the way it used to be. So if you're an older person who's a digital immigrant, come on. My mom's 92 years old, man. She's on Facebook. She's on Facebook. She downloads, uploads photos, messages, the whole thing. So anybody can learn to do it. And if you're younger, hey, you already know this, and you're digital native. You're born with it, and you should be utilizing it to the fullest.
Yeah. Very much so.
To make contact with people.
Yep. And again, the folks that I've been interviewing for this podcast, including yourself, have all been such unique and wonderful individuals. And you didn't send me your press release. What you did is I put a pitch in the Help a Reporter out.
Mm-hmm.
And you found my query saying that I was looking for authors that wanted to be on a podcast or be interviewed to not only share their story, but share writing tips and marketing tips. And you answered me. And that's, you might have sent your press release along with it, but you answered me on something that I reached out for.
Well, I did, and I'm so glad I did, and I appreciate it. And there's another place, Help a Reporter, places like that, give you emailings where people are looking are looking for people to interview.
Yep, I'm always looking for authors to talk to, and I'm looking for work-at-home mom and dads to talk to, and, I'm looking for all these different types of people, and, if you get the newsletter goes out 3 times a day, and if you scroll through it, you may find someone that's looking for the topic of your book, or for
Absolutely.
you personally, that you could share a story, and, oh, by the way, I wrote a book. And, it's a wonderful resource, and it's free. There's no cost, I don't charge you, you don't charge me, everybody's happy.
What's that great old saying? Half the world is waiting for the other half to say hello. So be the half that says hello.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. Be the half that says hello. And yeah, don't be waiting for people to say hello. Get out there and, honk your own horn, play your piano.
That is right. You got to toot your horn.
Yeah.
You got to believe in, if you're an author, you got to believe in your book. I'm lucky, I haven't sold any great number of books, but what I've had is almost consistently excited responses from people who read them. So I felt good about the book already, but it makes a big, big difference. Let's face it, when people, experience the project you've created, whether it's music, dance, sculpture, poetry, novel, whatever, and are moved by it, transformed by it, and love it. And that only makes me feel better about going out further and saying, hey, you've got to read this book if I got a great book for you. And meaning it and not sounding like a snake oil salesman.
Yep. And for your friends, that read it because, oh, you wrote it, I'll read it. And then, they read it and they go, hey, that was really cool.
You want to know something, Deborah?
Yeah.
One of my mottos, my self-mottos as a musical performer is, I would always rather perform for an audience of strangers than family and friends.
Totally.
Because family and friends either love everything you do or feel close enough to tear you down and tell you what's wrong with it. I love to go out in front of strangers, because strangers you'll find out, if you created something that's meaningful.
Memorable, yeah.
So I thank every one of my family and friends who've read this book, don't get me wrong. But it's a thrill when somebody you don't know at all, contacts and said, hey, I read your book and really moved me. It changed my view of this or this, music or life, or there's also a lot of martial arts in the book. There's all sorts of stuff. And it's great when, I'll give you a little story. Many years ago, I was at a benefit for my kid's school. This was a long time ago when my kid was little. And I sang a love song that I'd written that was going to be for a musical. And a guy comes up to me afterwards and he says, your song has opened up a new space in my heart, in my relationship with my son, which was a really mushy thing for a dad to come up and say.
Yeah.
But what a nice thing to say. You go, wow, I didn't write this song to sell it. I wrote it because I felt it. But the guy felt it too. The audience transformed. I mentioned in the book that the artistic process is you express and somebody receives. There's people in the world of the arts will say, no, they don't care if nobody likes their work, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Me, I don't want to have a closet full of CDs that nobody bought or books that nobody saw or anything. I want them out there. I want the world to experience what I'm feeling. That's the artistic transaction for me.
Yeah. And I've actually known people in the past that were excellent photographers, took beautiful, beautiful photographs, or, were wonderful artists that painted beautiful things. And I said, you should sell these. You should put these out to the world and share them. And they're like, no, this is just for me. And I'm like, well, that's kind of selfish, because art, and it's meant to be shared. I mean, obviously it's a personal decision, and maybe there's one or two pieces that you don't want to let go of. But, if you are a talented artist, share it with the world. Let them enjoy it with you.
I think it would be tough being a painter, because a painter sells his or her paintings and then it hangs in somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And not in front of you anymore. That's one of the blessings about writing a book or music. It multiplies.
Yep.
And of course you could do that with art now too, but you know what I mean.
I know. The original
Mona Lisa's in the Louvre.
Yep. Well, and myself as a photographer, my walls are covered with photographs, but I only have so much room. So I can't even look at all the things that I love, because
you need to sell a few so you can get a bigger place.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wanted to have, I used to joke with my sons, I wanted to have an art gallery so that I had someplace big enough to hang all my favorite photos.
I like it. That's good.
So, but, yeah, you have given us some really great advice. Like, if someone new were to come up to you and they're thinking about a book, or maybe they started a book, what would be your piece of advice for them?
What's the question from them?
What would you say? Someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm writing something." What piece of advice would you?
Well, I would be very encouraging, because just as I am with my piano students, whether they're going to compose or write a book, I'm thinking of doing something creative. I say, go for it. Worst case scenario is you're going to learn a lot from doing it. Best case scenario is the product is going to be an artistic success. So I say go for it. I didn't write this in a traditional way. I don't know a lot about editing. Somehow it got edited, but I didn't hire an editor. So I would say go ahead and do it. Do it carefully, lovingly, be willing to experiment. Write from the heart, write what you know. You don't have to only write what you know, but that's the most natural thing to do.
Well, write what you know something about, and let the writing come to you. Let it flow out.
Yeah,
let it flow itself.
Musicians sometimes, I don't want to get too touchy-feely here, but sometimes musicians say they're just letting the universe flow through them. That they're just a tool for spirit or God or the universe or whatever. John Coltrane used to talk about that, John McLaughlin, guitarist. And a lot of us, when we're in the zone, when we're playing music like jazz, when you're improvising, when you're really at your best, that's the feeling. And the same in the martial arts. The energy is just flowing through you. You're letting it happen instead of trying to make it happen. Sounds like a Zen thing. Stop trying to make the book happen. Let it happen. Do the work. If you have to do research, you've got to turn off the friggin' television, shut off all your screens except the computer you're going to write on or your pad and paper. Give it the time. Don't say you don't have the time. Make the time. Change your time management. Change your priorities. And start writing. Pick up the pen or the keyboard. Start. That's what I would say to anybody. Just start it.
Just start
it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about your deadlines. Don't talk about it so much. Do it.
Yeah. That's great advice. And one of the most famous people that said that the music flowed through him was Michael Jackson, and that was the problem with his insomnia and all the medications he was on to try and make him go to sleep, is he couldn't make the music stop.
He was obsessively going through choreography and directing himself. He tried to put that tour together. You're right. He couldn't sleep. He was thinking about it. He was planning every little move. Yeah.
And it was all...
But he didn't have that problem when he was dancing, though.
No. When he was on stage and he was dancing, it was just there.
Then he flowed.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I love the way you've combined music and writing. That's what's very intriguing to me. I tried to play piano when I was a kid. It didn't work. I spoke to a book author that was a children's book author that was an illustrator. I can't draw. I'm a photographer and I can do things on the computer, but I can't do the things that you can do or the things that he can do. And that's what we like to watch in other people. We want to, be able to feel the experience as if we were able to do it ourselves. And we like to be able to look at drawings and art and illustration that we couldn't do ourselves, but that we're so happy that we can actually see it.
Well, speaking as I'm also a music educator. I teach middle school choruses in a nice private school, and I've taught piano privately for 1,000,000 years. And with my students, I approach it as anybody is capable of learning to sing, or anybody's capable of learning to play the piano. And I really try not to believe in, sometimes again an adult comes to me for lessons, somebody in their 40s, 50s, hi, I'm tone deaf, I'm never going to learn to play. And I say, well, if you think that, first thing you have to do is change your mindset about yourself.
Right.
When the mind changes, the body and the fingers will follow. Same thing with the voice. So, yes, you can learn to play now, Deborah. It's going to happen.
Okay. I'll open GarageBand and see if I can make it work.
I'm going to buy you a piano.
I had a piano when I was a teenager, and it was probably more of a thing where I didn't have... because our economic circumstances, I didn't have the money to have the piano teacher come often enough. And,
right.
I didn't have a computer. I don't even know if my piano was in tune or not. And, I am a big believer of if you believe you can do it, you can do it. I'm writing novels right now because my son started them and can't finish them. And I am exploring places in my mind that I would never go. I can't write sci-fi fantasy, but I'm gonna. And it's going to happen. And through this series of podcasts with authors, I'm learning a lot of techniques.
I'll bet.
And, I have the basic novel to start with, and I already know the sequel. But now I need to rework that first novel because I realized that it isn't quite right. And, I was too close to it as, it was something my son wrote that I wanted to get out there. So now it's going to turn into something that he and I wrote together.
Well, that takes guts to say it's not right, I'm going to go back and fix it.
Yeah.
And guts and discipline.
Guts and discipline and time.
And I'm not necessarily a disciplined person. I mean...
Most musicians aren't.
What?
Most musicians aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that I ever learned to play the piano. I've just played all my life. Practicing has always been hard for me. The novel just kind of flew out of me. It just really, the expression it wrote itself, there's a certain amount of that feeling in writing it. Now, I didn't labor. I only labored over a few fine points and things I wanted to correct or little specific plot points. Some of it came to me in dreams. Characters and characters' names came to me in dreams.
Yeah.
So.
And that's totally normal. And if it doesn't happen to you as a writer, don't take it as being your abnormal, but I'm hearing more and more that is, one woman told me that she woke up at 3, she had been thinking about a book for several years, and she woke up one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, and her character was literally screaming at her that she had to go sit down at the computer right now and tell her story because she was tired of not being heard.
That is a wonderful story. That's a great story.
And she spent the next month writing the book because her character wouldn't let her let go of it.
There you go. In the middle of the night, if we all didn't have to get up to work, and in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. when you couldn't sleep, you did your meditation then, all sorts of things will come up. I meditate and do, martial arts and things like that, or I have, and I'm starting another one. And I like things that energize me and things that calm me, because I'm a naturally high-strung, noisy, chatty kind of obnoxious guy. And so when I do something like starting Tai Chi, all of a sudden I have to slow down, or I do transcendental meditation. I've meditated all my life on and off, but now I'm doing it regularly. Yep. It's great to have a moment where you shut everything down, turn off the screens, and just be quiet. Especially if you're listening to this, especially if you're the kind of person that says, oh, I could never do that because I can't sit still. Well, neither could I. That's why it was such a good thing for me. And when the brain becomes quiet, things come up that you need to come up, like ideas for your books.
Yep. I was going to ask you for your parting thoughts, and I think that was it.
Was it.
You just wrapped it up in a nutshell.
Good, and put a ribbon on it.
And put a ribbon on it. It's a wrap. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for answering my Harrow query, because you've been a fascinating person to listen to and to talk to.
This is fun for me.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking more in the future.
I know we are. And you're very generous with your advice to people, which is really wonderful, and we'll come back through you.
Well, thank you. I can't not share with people. That's part of the point, is that great. I mean, I work from home and I have my day job. But this whole writing thing, finding I found a need. And the need is that, you can read a lot of author interviews on the internet. But you know what? If I read an interview about you, I really don't know that much more about you than I did before. Mm-hmm. I can read it on your book cover. I can read it on your website. But when you actually sit and have a conversation with somebody, now our listeners have gotten to know you a little bit. And, they're going to go find the Disharmonic...
The Disharmonic Misadventures of David Stein.
Right. So that, they'll go find that because they're like, that guy was fun. I want to see what he wrote.
Right. Well, it's a fun book. I think a lot of that funness is in the writing.
Well, and that's what I'm expecting to see. So tell us again, where on the internet can people find you? Do you have a website?
The website for my book is www.disharmonicmisadventures.com.
Okay.
It's also you can buy it on Amazon.com. Just type in the name of the book. And it's also on the Barnes & Noble site. And CreateSpace has a page. But really, if you just Google Disharmonic Misadventures, it'll all come up.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many titles that string those two words together.
No, really a double negative, but that was part of the joke.
Right. Do you have like a Facebook or a Twitter?
Oh, yeah, I do have a Facebook page. it's also called the Disharmonic Misadventures of David Stein. There's a Facebook page there too.
Okay.
And Twitter, I think I haven't used a lot of Twitter, but I believe it's Jonathan L. Segal, and it's spelled JONATHANLSEGAL, Jonathan L. Segal.
Beautiful. I would again like to thank you for participating in our author series of podcasts.
I'm honored.
Really? And I also want our listeners that are finding us on, a podcatcher or on iTunes that haven't found our site yet, please go to BookGoodies.com, and that's BookGoodies with IES at the end. .com, and you'll be able to do a search for Jonathan, and you'll be able to find our podcast, and you can make comments, leave comments. You can also offer to be a guest by going at the top of the page and clicking on Contact Us, and you can also tell us about your books by clicking on the Tell Us About Your Book link, which will allow you to fill out a form that gives us all the information we need to be able to share your books with all of our site visitors. And we are also available on Twitter and at Facebook, twitter.com/bookgoodies and facebook.com/bookgoodies. And if you want to find out anything about me personally, you can go to deborahcarney.com or you can go to twitter.com/Loxley, Loxly. That's like Robin Hood was Sir Robin of Loxley, and we just spell it phonetically. And also, we also want to thank Geekcast.fm, who hosts all of our shows and has a lot of podcasts and screencasts about affiliate marketing and internet marketing and marketing in general, so that you can go explore some of the other podcasts that are there, including some more by me. So thanks everybody for listening. Get out there and get writing, and have a great day.